Welcome back. Alright, so today we're going to be doing the 180 degree rule. Okay, so what is this? Alright, what in the world? Alright, so let's just jump straight into it. Okay, so the 180 degree rule. How are we going to use it? What is it? Alright, so firstly what I want you to go and do, okay, is I want you to find all of these values for me. Okay, and so just pause the video quickly, get out your calculators, go find all these values for me, and we're going to now analyze the answers that we get. Okay, so I've assumed you paused the video and you've done it already. Alright, so sine of 150 is what? Okay, we know it's a half. Okay, we checked on our calculators. Sine of 30 is what? That's a half. Good. And sine of 210, okay, we know it's negative a half. Okay, and sine of 330 we see is negative a half. Alright, so something interesting here. Can you see that we have halves everywhere? We've got 1 over 2, 1 over 2, 1 over 2, 1 over 2. Alright, but there's something strange here. Alright, so we see that it's positive here, it's positive here, it's negative here, and it's negative here. Now why is that? Let's just analyze here. Why are these negative? Alright, forget about the half for now. Why is this positive here in 30 and 150? Okay, but it's negative for 210 and 330. Can anybody answer that for me? Alright, yes. Okay, so can you see, firstly, in my Cartesian plane, where is 30 degrees? In which quadrant? 30 degrees is in the first quadrant. Alright, and sine is what in the first quadrant? Sine is positive. Okay, positive a half. Alright, if I look at sine of 150, where is 150 in which quadrant? 150 degrees is in quadrant 2. Right, because we had 90 and we're in between 90 and 180. So I'm in quadrant 2. Alright, and sine is what in quadrant 2? Sine is positive. Alright, positive a half. Alright, same thing here. If I look at sine of 210, where am I with 210 degrees? I'm in quadrant 3. Alright, and sine is what in quadrant 3? Sine is negative. Very good. Alright, and sine of 330 degrees. Okay, 330 degrees, where am I? Which quadrant am I in? I'm in quadrant 4. And sine is what in quadrant 4? It is negative. So if I should draw an imaginary Cartesian plane here. There it is. Okay, so 30 degrees is here in quadrant 1. Okay, we know that all of my ratios are positive here. Okay, in quadrant 2, we know that only sine is positive. There it is. Alright, quadrant 3, we know that tan is positive. Okay, but this is sine, so that means that sine is negative. Okay, and cos is positive here, so sine will be negative. Alright, but now we understand, okay, where do these positives and why are they negative? Now we know why they're positive and why they're negative. Alright, but why are they all a half? Why are they all a half? Alright, something strange, something wonky is over there. Alright, so we'll get to that. Okay, I wanted that to just ponder in your mind a little bit, just be in the back of your mind a little bit. Alright, so let's see what this means. Alright, so I want you to do the same thing for cos. I want you to see if the same thing happens with cos, with the ratio of cos. Okay, so now we know that sine ends up with halves everywhere, but now cos, let's see if it's the same thing. Okay, so just pause the video, okay, and then just work all of these out for me on your calculator. Okay, so I assume you've paused, you've done it already. Alright, so your calculator will give you, okay, negative square root of 3 over 2 over here. Okay, that will give you negative square root 3 over 2 over there. Give you positive square root 3 over 2 over here. And it will give you positive square root 3 over 2 over there. Alright, so we see that the same thing is happening for cos. Alright, the same thing, meaning I've got some negatives, I've got some positives. Alright, but I've got the same thing over here. I've got the square root of 3 over 2, square root of 3 over 2, square root of 3 over 2, square root of 3 over 2. I've got the same thing. Right? It's a little bit strange. Alright? But if I'm looking at 30 degrees, where am I? Which quadrant? I'm in quadrant 1, and we know that all of my ratios are positive in quadrant 1. So if I draw an imaginary Cartesian plane here, alright, so therefore cos will be positive. Alright, in quadrant 2, okay, because 150 is in quadrant 2, alright, we know that cos is negative because only sine is positive in quadrant 2. Alright, and in quadrant 3, alright, we're looking at 210. Alright, 210 degrees is in quadrant 3. Alright, and only tan is positive here in quadrant 3. So that means that cos will be negative. Alright, and we know that in quadrant 4, okay, because 330 degrees is in quadrant 4, we know that cos is only positive there. Alright, so that means that cos will be positive. Alright, so now we know where the positives and the negatives come from. Alright, but why are these all the same thing? Okay, and the same with sine. Why are these all the same? Okay, can anybody tell me? Does anybody have any ideas? Any ideas? Okay, no ideas yet. Alright, let's see. Keep that in the back of your mind. Why are they all the same? Alright, keep that in the back of your mind. Okay, I want you to go do tan. Let's see if the same thing happens for tan. Right, so go put that in your calculator, okay, and see what you get if you type tan of 30, tan of 150, alright, tan of 210 and 330. Right, go do that. Okay, so I assume you've paused the video, you've done it already. Alright, so this is going to give you the square root of 3 over 3. Alright, this is going to give you the negative square root 3 over 3. This is going to give you positive square root 3 over 3. And this will give you negative square root 3 over 3. Alright, so again, I'm going to draw an imaginary Cartesian plane over here. Right. So this is quadrant 1, okay, because 30 degrees is in quadrant 1. And we know that tan is positive in quadrant 1 because all the ratios are positive. So positive square root 3 over 3. Right. In quadrant 2, we know that tan is negative because only sine is positive here, so tan will be negative square root 3 over 3. Right, in quadrant 3, okay, because 210 is in quadrant 3, alright, we know that tan is the only ratio that is positive here in quadrant 3, meaning tan will be positive square root 3 over 3. Right, and then lastly, quadrant 4, alright, I'm in 330 degrees, which is quadrant 4, alright, and we know that only cos is positive here. Okay, that means that tan will be negative, so negative square root 3 over 3. Alright, so again, but we still see that we've got the same thing happening here. Same thing. Right, so we know where the negatives and the positives come from. Fine. Alright, but why are we getting the same value for sine, cos, and tan? Alright, so not exactly the same, so this is a little bit different. Okay, so we've got the same thing here. Okay, so we've got square root 3 over 3 for all of these. Alright, but for cos, we've got square root 3 over 2, square root 3 over 2. Alright, and sine, we've got a half. Alright, so why are they all the same? Okay, so now let's look at this. Okay, so if I were to draw a triangle, okay, let me draw a triangle here in the first quadrant. Okay, so in the first quadrant, we know that we are working with a 30-degree angle. Okay, a 30-degree angle. Okay, simple. Alright, 30-degree angle. Now, if I look at this, okay, if I draw 150 degrees, let's say this angle over here, okay, connecting to this line, okay, is 150 degrees. Okay, what is this angle, the size of this angle over here? What is that size of this angle? Guys, remember last year when you did straight line geometry? Okay, you had a straight line. Okay, and we know that the angle on a straight line is 180 degrees. Okay, that means that this angle over here is 30 degrees. Okay, so I want you to just ponder on that for a moment. Ponder on that for a moment. Okay, so you've pondered. Alright, so let's just go back. Alright, so if I had to draw a triangle. Okay, so I'm taking this triangle. Okay, and I'm saying that's 30 degrees, that's 90 degrees over here. Okay, so that will inevitably be 60 degrees. Now, if I take this triangle, Alright, I'm going to take this triangle. Alright, and I'm going to draw it in the second quadrant. Okay, take exactly the same triangle and I'm going to draw it in the second quadrant over here. Okay, there's a 90-degree angle. Okay, that's going to be 30. That's going to be 60. Alright, but what is this angle over here? It's the 150. Okay, so this angle over here is still 30 degrees. Okay, it's 30 degrees. Okay, but the angle outside here is 150, right? Because we're always going from here around. Okay, we're not going from here this way. We're always going from here to here. Right? Now if I take the same triangle, okay, and I draw it, whoa, okay, same triangle, okay, and I draw it in the third quadrant, okay, third quadrant, okay, so we've dealt with the 30, we've dealt with the 150, so now let's do the 210. Okay, so from 0 all the way to that line over there, it's 210 degrees. Alright, but I want to know what this angle over here is. How am I going to find that angle over there? Alright, if I know that this straight line is 180 degrees, okay, how far is 210 degrees from 180 degrees? We know it's 30 degrees. Okay, right, so now we're seeing a trend. Okay, we're seeing 30 degrees in the first quadrant. Okay, and in the second quadrant we saw that 150, okay, that 150 degree angle also gave us a 30 degree angle over there in the triangle. Now we're seeing that the 210 degrees is also giving us a 30 degree angle in the triangle. Okay, let's see if this happens in the fourth quadrant as well. Alright, so if I go back and I'm going to draw a line over here. Alright, and I'm going to tell you that I drew that line at 330 degrees. Alright, so now I'm going to deal with this last one, 330 degrees. Alright, so how far is this line from the horizontal? I'm going to start using that terminology now. Right, how far am I from the horizontal line? Okay, the horizontal x-axis. Okay, how many degrees? Okay, if this is 0 degrees or 360 degrees, okay, how far is 330 degrees from my 360 degrees? We know it's 30 degrees. Okay, so I'm seeing a trend here. Right, I'm seeing a trend here. Okay, so technically, guys, okay, what's happening here? Why these are all the same is because technically all of these I can write in terms of 30 degrees. Alright, so I'll do it again. So let's see if we can just work with this one over here. Okay, so tan of 150 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line at 150 degrees. Okay, 150 degrees. Okay, so instead of saying tan of 150 degrees, okay, I can also write something, okay, because it's the same triangle that I'm drawing in the first quadrant. So this is 30 degrees, right? And I'm just going to take this triangle and I'm going to flip it into the second quadrant. Okay, same triangle. Okay, but if I flip it in the second quadrant, can you see that now my angle becomes 150 degrees instead of 30? Okay, but it's still the same triangle, so this is still 30 degrees. Okay, so instead of saying 150 degrees, I can say tan of 30 degrees. Okay, so it will get better. I know it's a new thing. Okay, I want your mind to just to absorb. Right, stick with me. Alright, so we can say, instead of writing tan of 150, tan of 150 is actually the same as saying tan of 30. Alright, because I am 30 degrees from the horizontal axis. The horizontal. Alright, so, but which quadrant am I in? I'm in which quadrant? Okay, I'm in the second quadrant. I'm in quadrant 2. Okay, is tan positive or negative in the second quadrant? Tan is negative. Alright, so it's negative tan of 30. Okay, so if we go back, okay, tan of 30 we know was square root 3 over 3. Sorry, square root 3 over 3. So it's negative square root 3 over 3. Right, so now let's go look at what tan of 150 was. Okay, what did our calculator give us? Tan of 150 was negative square root 3 over 3. Wow, awesome stuff. Alright, so instead of using my calculator, okay, I just used my 180 degree rule. Okay, so that's what this is. It's a 180 degree rule because I'm always finding what is the angle to the closest horizontal. Okay, so the closest horizontal is either the 180, okay, or the 360. Okay, I'll show you now how that works. Okay, but I'm finding the angle closest to the 180 degree rule. Okay, how far am I from that 180 degrees? Okay, so if I look at quadrant 3 over here, okay, so I'm going to take tan of 210. Okay, so that's my third quadrant over here, 210. All right, and I'm going to now draw my 210 degrees. Okay, so there's my 210 degrees. Okay, and there's my triangle. Whoa, terrible triangle. Okay, anyway, all right, now 210 degrees. Okay, how far is this line, okay, my hypotenuse, away from my 180 degrees or my closest horizontal? Okay, can you see that the 180 is the closest horizontal? Okay, because the 360 is a bit further away. It's further away than the 180 degrees. Okay, so that's my closest horizontal. Closest horizontal is the 180. Okay, so if this is 210 degrees, okay, this whole angle over here, how far am I from 210 degrees to 180 degrees? How far am I? I'm 30 degrees. So instead of saying 210 degrees, all right, what could I say? I could say tan of 30, because that's the angle that was closest to my horizontal, okay, from this line. Okay, and where am I? Where did I draw this triangle? In which quadrant? I drew it in quadrant 3. All right, so that means that tan is positive here. Okay, so I'm working with tan. That means it's positive tan of 30. Okay, and if I look here, they said tan of 30, or I can go back here. Tan of 30, they said, was square root 3 over 3. Okay, so tan of 30 is square root 3 over 3. So I didn't use any calculator. I didn't use my calculator. All right, so if I go back, right, 210, tan of 210, positive square root 3 over 3. Awesome, I'm getting the same answers. I'm getting the same answers. Now let's see if it works with the fourth quadrant. Right, so if I draw my triangle again, okay, I draw my triangle here, okay, and I'm telling you that I'm drawing this at 330 degrees, okay, 330 degrees, all right, because that's my last one here that they're telling me to draw. Okay, so 330 degrees. I want to ask you how far is this line over here that I drew, okay, my hypotenuse, from the closest horizontal? So now which horizontal is closer, the 180 horizontal line, okay, or the 360 horizontal line? Okay, the 360 is obviously closer. Okay, this distance over here is closer than this distance over here to my 180. Okay, so now I'm going to use the closest horizontal, which is this one, is 360. Okay, so how far is 330 degrees from my 360 degrees over here? Okay, it's 30 degrees. Alright, so instead of saying tan of 330, right, I can say tan of 30 degrees. Alright, but where am I? Where is this triangle? I'm in quadrant 4. Okay, I know that only cos is positive here. Okay, so what is tan? Tan has to be negative. Okay, so it's negative tan of 30, and we know that negative tan of 30 over there, they said it's negative square root 3 over 3. Okay, let's go back. Let's see if it's right. Oh, it's negative square root 3 over 3. Awesome stuff. Alright, so they told me. Now, can you see that I used my 180 degree rule, okay, to find my values here? I didn't use my calculator. Okay, it's important because in your exam they will say, please do not use a calculator. Okay, and that is how you know I'm going to use my 180 degree rule. Alright, so now let's see. Let's go into some examples here. Alright, so what I want you to quickly do for me, okay, let's go through sine and cos as well. Alright, so they said, let me draw my Cartesian plane. Alright, so if they say, okay, so I'm going to tell you that sine of 30 is equal to a half. I'm telling you that. Alright, so I'm going to tell you that because my calculator told me that. Now, I want you to find sine of 150, okay, but without using a calculator. I don't want you to use your calculator, alright? You have to use your 180-degree rule. What are you going to do? Okay, firstly, let's go draw, let's go visualize. Where am I? Okay, so I'm going to draw my 150. Okay, so I'm going to draw my triangle. Okay, draw my triangle, and this is my 150 degrees. Okay, and I'm going to ask myself, how far is this line, okay, this line over here, my hypotenuse, from the closest horizontal? Okay, is the 180 the closest, or is 360 the closest horizontal? Okay, 180 is the closest horizontal. So how far is 150 from 180? Okay, it's 30 degrees, 30 degrees. Alright, so instead of saying sine of 150, I can write sine of 30. Right, and that's looking nice because I know what sine of 30 is. I know what it is. I'm not using my calculator. Alright, but now I need to ask myself first, before I move on. There was two questions I need to ask. Firstly, how far am I from my closest horizontal? And my second question, where am I? I'm in quadrant 2, right? And we know that sine is positive in quadrant 2, so I'm going to leave it positive sine of 30. Okay, positive sine of 30. And we know that sine of 30 is a half. Okay, cool. Now let's try. I want you to go find sine of 210 for me. Okay, 210. Alright, so I'm going to draw my triangle. Alright, and I'm going to tell you that, maybe I should use a different color. Alright, so I'm going to tell you that from 0 all the way until this line, okay, I know is 110 degrees. Sorry, 210 degrees. Right, and my first question I'll ask myself is what? How far am I from my closest horizontal? So this line over here, how far am I from the closest horizontal? So how far am I from the closest horizontal? How far? How many degrees is that? 30 degrees. Fantastic. All right, that's looking great because I know what sine of 30 is. All right, so instead of saying sine of 210, I can say sine of 30. Okay, because that's how far am I from my horizontal, my closest horizontal, sine of 30. Alright, but where am I? I'm in quadrant 3. Alright, so sine is what in quadrant 3? Sine is negative, okay, because tan is the only one that's positive. Okay, tan is the only one that's positive. Okay, so sine is negative there. Alright, and awesome, I know what sine of 30 is. Sine of 30 is a half. Alright, but I've got the negative in front, so it's negative a half. Alright. Alright, so last one. Okay, last one. Alright, so let's go and do draw my triangle. Boom, boom, boom. Alright. Okay. And I'm going to tell you, okay, I'm going to draw 330 degrees. Okay, so that's 330 degrees. What's the first question I ask myself? Okay, how far is this line? Okay, to my closest horizontal. Closest one is the 360. So how far is 330 from 360? 30 degrees. Awesome. All right. So instead of saying, okay, sine of 330, I can write sine of 30 degrees. All right. But where am I? I'm in quadrant 4. And we know that only cos is positive. That means that sine is negative. Alright, I know what sine of 30 is, which is a half. Sine of 30 is a half, but I've got that negative in front, so it's negative a half over there. Okay, I'm hoping that's making sense. Okay, so we're going to move on. Alright, I'm not going to do cos, because I think you guys are smart enough, you guys can do it. Alright, so what I want you guys to quickly do for me. Okay, now let's put this in practice without drawing anything. Right, I want you to visualize where you are. Right, so again, I'm going to say sine of 30. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to say sine of 30 is a half. Sine of 30 is a half. I want you to go find sine of 150 without using your calculator. So basically what I'm telling you to do, I want you to go and write these in terms of sine of 30. Okay, so I need to get sine of 30 here, sine of 30, sine of 30 somehow. How am I going to do that? Right, let's go see. Okay, so firstly, where am I? Okay, so 150 degrees. Where am I? Which quadrant? I'm in quadrant 2. That means sine is what in quadrant 2? Sine is positive. Okay, so it's positive. Right? Then I say, how far am I from the closest horizontal? Right? So 150, my closest horizontal is the 180 degrees. Okay, so if you want to make a note there, okay, it's closest to 180. Alright, so how far is 150 to 180? 30 degrees. Awesome. Okay, looking nice. So instead of saying sine of 150, I can say sine of 30 degrees. Okay, and it's positive sine of 30. I know what sine of 30 is. They told me it's a half, so I can write a half there. Cool, I didn't use my calculator. Nice. Alright, so if I look at 210, sine of 210, right, where am I firstly? Okay, first question, where am I? I'm in quadrant 3. Alright, I know that sine is what in quadrant 3? Sine is positive or negative? Negative. So immediately I'm going to put a negative there. Alright, and then I ask myself, okay, what is my closest horizontal to 210 degrees? Is it 360 or is it 180? Okay, I know my closest horizontal is the 180. Alright, so the closest horizontal, if I want to make a note there, is 180 degrees. Okay, so how far is 210 degrees from 180 degrees? Okay, it's 30 degrees. So instead of saying 210, sine of 210, I can say sine of 30 degrees. Okay, now it's negative sine of 30. Okay, so I know what sine of 30 is. Okay, and we can say it's negative a half. Okay, please don't forget about that negative, guys. Very important. Okay, last one of these, and then we're going to move on to some letters. Right, how we're going to do some letters. Right, so sine of 330. Alright, so we can see that I'm in the fourth quadrant. Okay, sine is what in the fourth quadrant? Sine is negative. Alright, now I'll ask myself, how far am I from the closest horizontal? Which one is the closest horizontal, the 180 or the 360? The 360. Okay, so my closest horizontal is 360. And how far is 330 from 360? 30 degrees. Oh, nice. Okay, ding ding. Alright, so I can say sine of 30. Alright, and we know that sine of 30 is a half. Okay, but it's also negative sine of 30. Okay, so it's negative a half. Alright, and that's it, ladies and gents. Okay, it's nice and easy. Okay, there's nothing difficult about the 180 degree rule. All that you really need to know is firstly, where am I positive, where am I negative? Okay, and you can do some simple subtraction, simple addition, okay, to find out how far you are from the closest horizontal. Okay, there's nothing difficult about this. Alright, so now let's see how we can incorporate that into letters. Okay, so if I give you letters. Alright, so if I tell you, okay, I am your examiner, okay, and I tell you that sine of A, okay, is, let's say, 4/5. Okay, they can give you any value. Alright, I'm telling you it's 4/5. Alright, now, if I'm telling you sine of 180 minus A, okay, so now let's visualize this. Okay, sine of 180 minus A. Firstly, let's go to 180. So I'm at 0. There's 0, there's 90, there's 180, there's 270, and then there's 360. Right, so if I say 180 minus A, so let's go to 180 first. So I'm at 180, so I'm at 0, and I'm going to go to 180, there's 180. Right, and then I'm going to minus A degrees. So I'm going to go into my, which quadrant? My second quadrant, and I minused what degrees? How many degrees did I go back? I went A degrees back. Okay, so from this line over here to my horizontal, How far am I? What is this angle? How far am I? A degrees. Can you see that? Now I can do it with letters. Okay, so I'm always going to write how far am I from my horizontal? Alright, so if I look here, okay, so I said, firstly, where am I? Okay, so where am I? I'm in quadrant 2. I know that sine is positive in quadrant 2, right? So it's a positive. Okay, I'm just putting this here. You don't have to write this in your exams, right? Just to show you, just to visualize. Oh, sorry, this is, where am I? There we go. Sorry, guys. Alright, so here we are. So it's positive sine. So I was looking at cos now. Alright, so sine is positive in the second quadrant. Okay, and I said, how far am I from my horizontal? So from this line, always from this line. Okay, so my hypotenuse in a sense, if I draw this triangle. Alright, how far am I from my hypotenuse, or this line, from my closest horizontal? I know it's A degrees. Okay, so instead of saying 180 minus A, I can say sine of whatever angle was closest to my horizontal, okay, A degrees. Alright, and now I know what sine of A is. They told me what sine of A is. Sine of A is 4 over 5. Okay, and it's positive 4 over 5. Okay, now let's visualize sine of 180 plus A. Alright, so if I go to 180, here's 180. Bam, 180. Alright, and I'm plussing A degrees. Where am I going? Am I going up or am I going down? I'm going down because I'm adding more. I'm adding more degrees. I'm getting closer to my 270, but I don't know what that A value is. I don't know what that angle is, so I'm just going to make it up. Right, let's say it's there. Right, so I went up until A degrees. So I went from 180 and I plussed how much? How much did I have to add to get to this line? I had to add A degrees. Okay, so if I look at this line over here and I say, okay, what is my angle that is between this line and my closest horizontal? I know it's A degrees. Can you see that? Between this hypotenuse, okay, and my 180 horizontal, my closest horizontal, I can see that that is just A degrees. A degrees. Alright, so my first question, firstly, where am I? I'm in quadrant 3. Alright, so I'm in quadrant 3. Sine is what in quadrant 3? Sine is negative in quadrant 3. Alright, and instead of saying sine of 180 plus A, I can say sine of, okay, what was that angle that was closest to my horizontal? A. Alright, so, oh, not that one, sorry. Okay, sine of A. Right, but now it's negative sine of A. Okay, so it's negative, and what was sine of A? 4 over 5. Okay, let's see if we can do the same thing for sine of 360 minus A. Right, let's visualize. Okay, so I'm going 360, so it's 0, all the way to 360, so all the way here. Okay, and then I'm going to minus A degrees, so I'm going to go in the opposite direction, so I'm minusing A degrees, and let's say that was A degrees over there. Alright, so what is the distance now between that horizontal and this hypotenuse over here? Okay, how much angle, or which angle, how far, alright, did I go from the 360 back to this horizontal? Sorry, so back to the hypotenuse here. I went A degrees. Alright, so firstly, where am I? I'm in quadrant 4, and sine is what in quadrant 4? Sine is negative. Alright, so let's go back here. Right, so instead of saying sine of 360 minus A, I can say sine of A. Alright, and we know it's negative because I'm in the 4th quadrant. Okay, and what is sine of A? Sine of A is 4 over 5. Okay, but it's negative. Don't forget about that negative, please. Alright, okay, I hope that's making sense. I hope it's coming together now. Alright, now let's see if you can do this. Alright, so I'm going to tell you cos of A. Let's say cos of A is 3 over 5. Okay, I'm telling you that. I'm the examiner. I'm telling you cos of A is 3 over 5. I want you to go and find cos of 180 minus A, cos of 180 plus A, cos of 360 minus A. Quickly. Go pause the video. Go do it quickly. Alright, so I've assumed you paused the video. You've done it already. So now we're going to write all of these in terms of cos of A first. Because I'm not using my calculator. I don't know. I can't use my calculator. Alright, so I need to get these, all three of these, in some term of cos of A. Because once I get into cos of A, I know what cos of A is, so I can find the value. Alright, so cos of 180 minus A. Okay, firstly, where am I? Which quadrant? I'm in quadrant 2. Alright, so let's do a little sketch here. Okay, so I went 180 and I'm minus A degrees. So now I'm in quadrant 2. Alright, so I know that cos is what in quadrant 2? Cos is negative. Alright, and what is my angle in between my hypotenuse here and my closest horizontal? What is this angle over here? It's A degrees. Alright, so what is that? I can write, instead of 180 minus A, I can say cos of A. Alright, and what is cos of A? 3 over 5. Negative 3 over 5. Alright, cool. Let's see if we can do cos of 180 plus A. Let's visualize quickly. Let's draw a little sketch. Okay, if you want to, you can draw a little sketch. Okay, I'm going to 180. There's 180. And I'm plusing A degrees. Okay, so I'm over here. Which quadrant is that? It's quadrant 3. Cos is what in quadrant 3? Positive or negative? Negative. Alright, and we said we plussed A. So from the 180 degrees, okay, this line over here, I plussed how much degrees? I plussed A degrees. Alright, so what is the angle in between my hypotenuse and my 180? A degrees. So instead of saying cos of 180 plus A, I can say cos of A. Very good. Alright, and we know that cos of A is 3 over 5. Okay, but it's negative because of that negative over there. Okay, and the last one, draw a little sketch here. Alright, we're going to go 360 minus A. Okay, so 360 all the way around, and we're going to minus A. So where am I? I'm in my fourth quadrant, and cos is what in the fourth? Positive. Alright, and how many degrees did I minus from the 360? I went 360 and I minused how many degrees? A degrees. Alright, so what is the angle in between my hypotenuse and the horizontal, the closest horizontal? In this case, it's the 360. Alright, it's A. Alright, A degrees. Alright, so instead of saying cos of 360 minus A, I can say cos of A. Alright, we know what cos of A is. Cos of A is 3 over 5. Alright, okay, last ratio. Alright, let's do tan quickly. So I'm going to tell you tan of A. Tan of A is 3 over 8. Let's do 3 over 8. Alright, so I want you to pause the video quickly and go find those ratios. There's tan of 180 minus A in terms of, this is not sine of A, sorry guys. Okay, this should be tan of A. Okay, was the previous slide also sine? Alright, so please go and find your ratios in terms of tan of A. Alright, so I assume you paused the video, you've done it already. Alright, so tan of 180 minus A. Okay, so let's draw a little sketch here on the side, okay, because I'm struggling to visualize it. Okay, so I'm going to go to 180, I'm going to minus A, so where am I? I'm in my second quadrant. Tan is what in the second quadrant? It's negative. How many degrees did I minus from the 180? I minused A degrees, so instead of saying tan of 180 minus A, I can say tan of A degrees. Alright, and we know what tan of A is. Tan of A is 3 over 8, so it's negative 3 over 8. Alright, so you can see I'm going a little bit quicker now because I'm assuming you guys are getting it. Nice and easy. Alright, so I'm going to draw a little sketch here again. Alright, I'm going to go tan of 180 plus A, so 180 plus A. So I'm at 180, and I'm adding A, so where am I? I'm in the third quadrant. Tan is what in the third? Positive. Okay, and how many degrees am I from my horizontal? Okay, I am A degrees. So instead of saying tan of 180 plus A, I can say tan of A. Alright, so we know what tan of A is. Tan of A is 3 over 8. Nice. Alright, and last one for today. Right, draw a little sketch because I'm struggling to visualize. Or let's leave the sketch. Right, see if you can do it in your heads. Right, so we've got tan of 360 minus A. Okay, so tan of 360 minus A, where am I? I'm in the fourth quadrant. Good. Okay, so I'm going from quadrant 1 all the way around into quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and I'm ending up back to 0, okay, we're 360, okay, back to the beginning, right, and then I'm going to minus a degrees, right, so where am I? I'm in the 4th quadrant. Tan is what in the 4th? It's negative, right, and how many degrees did I move back? Okay, so I said 360 and I minused a degrees. How many degrees did I minus? A degrees. So instead of saying tan of 360 minus a, I can say tan of a degrees, right? I know what tan of a is. Okay, tan of a is 3 over 8. Okay, so it's negative 3 over 8. Alright, ladies and gents, that is your 180 degree rule. Nice and easy. So now you've learned how to do it with numbers, okay, with just normal angles. Okay, so the angles 60, 30, 50, 40, whatever. Alright, doesn't really matter. Okay, 275, I don't know. Okay, doesn't matter. Alright, and now you've learned to do it with letters. Alright, so I know it's a bit of a long video, okay, but there was a lot of stuff that we had to just go through, okay, because it's a difficult topic to understand for some. Alright, and please, I need you guys to, if you don't understand what's going on in the video, maybe just rewatch it. Okay, you need to understand this in grade 10 because we've got matrics that are still struggling with this 180 degree rule. Alright, so please go back and make sure that you understand this. Alright, I hope this was a good video and I hope that it helps you. Alright.